Welcome to the Writing Gals, four sweet romance authors staying up late and talking about writing. Tonight we are having a special question and answer session about book launches. I posted the topic on our Facebook group earlier this week, and we've got some really great questions, which I'm really excited for us to discuss tonight. And that said, if you aren't a member of our Facebook group, go ahead and join us because it's really awesome and there's a lot of great conversations that are going on all the time about writing and just everything to do with the writer's life. So if you want to join that, we are called the Writing Gals on Facebook, and we'd be happy to have you join. And so before we get started, though, we wanted to kind of give an update on what everyone has been up to lately. And but first, Victorine, as you can tell, is not here tonight. She had to, she's really sad to really be missing us because she's at an American Idol concert tonight. So, yeah, I'm sure she's missing this and not enjoying the concert or anything. But yeah, anyway, we will find out what Amy's been doing.
Well, I have been hosting a lot of people at my house. I felt like my house has been a day's in. I've had so many people coming and going. My sister came from Canada and is staying with us, and then I've had my brother come up, and then her friend came, and then her ex-mother-in-law came. So it's been pretty busy. So I haven't gotten any writing done since last week. But I did launch my second book in my YA series, Rule Number 2, You Can't Crush on Your Sworn Enemy. So that came out, launched on Wednesday. And I have to say, I am loving YA because I think it's because it's not as competitive. So you just kind of climb the charts. And I don't know how it was doing it. And I have a suspicion it had something to do with the fact that Netflix just released that one YA book and it got a lot more attention. I was on one of the pages. I think I was number 5 in the top a contemporary romance category. So I'm thinking that helped me, but all of a sudden my book just started climbing on its own. Now it's kind of average, kind of sticking at about 400 in that range. So that's really, really awesome. And then yesterday, Rule Number 2 went live, and it has climbed all on its own up to 700. So I'm pretty happy with that. And now thinking, I really like YA. Maybe I'll stick in here for a little while. And it's also kind of interesting because a lot of my reviews are saying, I think this author really found her niche. I'm really enjoying her YA books. So now I'm like, well, now I don't know what to do. But probably a little bit of both here and there. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm at. Tomorrow my sister leaves, and so I'll start back into writing and get Rule Number 3 written and released, hopefully soon. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, awesome. It's been fun watching your book just do amazing on its own. I was like, how? She's like, it's gotten higher than any of my books have even got with all of my promotion. So it's awesome. I'm like, maybe someday that will be me. Anyway, so what about you, Michelle? What have you been doing?
I published my mermaid book, which I announced last time, and I know some of our readers went and checked it out. They told me about it, so that was really cool. I am not doing spectacularly with this launch. It's a new genre for me, and I'm trying to remind myself that I expected this slow start and that I am going to keep building on it with the rest of the series. The people who read it, I think, are enjoying it. It's just really hard in the fantasy genre to kind of get your toe in the door. And so I'm trying to be patient through that. My Regency is coming out on September 4th is the official launch date. And that's going to be super cool. And I'm just crazy. I'm not necessarily telling all of you at all that you should be trying 3 different genres. I'm probably shooting myself in the foot. But it is like I'm very proud of both of these books, and I feel like I've grown as a writer, and they were definitely for love books. And so it's important to me that I write in these to keep my soul fed, and I'm happy with how they're turning out. As far as earning a living as a writer. I have no idea what Regency is going to do for me yet, but I do know I need to keep my contemporary audience happy. And so I'm hard at work right now on finishing my Rockstar book, and I have it scheduled to be launching about September 24th. So looking forward to that. And then I'm just going to have like this race against the clock through the end of the year to try and get some other projects finished, mostly Christmas, trying to get my Christmas books out. And so I'm needing to start plotting that. So Christmas is always super fun. But yeah, so that's what I've got going on. It's super exciting next to Amy.
It is awesome. You're doing great. So for me, I am still working on the same book that I've been working on for a long time. I'm about halfway through. I made it to like 37,000 words today. And I'm hoping to finish it by the middle of next month so that I can get to the next book because I have a deadline for that one too. So yeah, but it's been fun, and I think that I've finally gotten a handle on the story. At least I hope so. So yeah, it's been good. So we will just get right into our questions for tonight. And so the first question is one that I thought would kind of be good to start us out on this. And so it's from Bridget Baker. And so I'll just read it. So biggest question that she has is through what you do step by step and the order you do it. For example, write, edit while waiting for copy edits, leak the cover to your street team, send out ARCs. It would be amazing if you took a second on first ever launches. So yeah. So what basically, how does, like, what all goes into launching a book? Do you guys want to go, or do you want me to go?
I think for me, the biggest thing that helps me is, one, because I write as quickly as I do, I have a cover for the next book that I link in the back of my books. I have been doing what Victorine had said in all my books and doing the hard sale at the end. So if you put the end books page to push people to your next book, Amazon will pop up. It's please rate this book and review it. And I know they're just trying to be helpful because reviews are helpful to authors, but it kind of, people get lost and then they won't go back to find the next book. So what I have been doing is just at the end of my book, I just put 3 stars, you know, to indicate that it's done. And then the next line down, it's want more romance, check out the next book in the series. And I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but in the back of Marrying a Prince, since I didn't have Marrying a Spy coming out till October, I had, well, check out Marrying a Spy because I have that on pre-order. But then I also have, but until then, check out Forgetting the Billionaire, the first of my billionaire series. And it was amazing to me on my smart URL link, because I can track clicks, to see how many people clicked over to Forgetting the Billionaire, people who hadn't found me in previous. And I was like, oh, why didn't I ever think about linking my last book to my first book so I can get people going through this, like my first series ever, and working their way through there. So that to me is really helpful at the end of the book. So that's like in preparation for when it launches, just getting that cover. And I think it also helps me to write the next book. But I kind of do things really fast because I publish fast. So like I didn't get my ARC team my last book until like the day before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to send it to my ARC team. I completely forgot. So I got it to them. So I think getting your books to your ARC team is important. I don't really think leaking a cover image is really important. I don't think that does much in terms of sales. Maybe if you're going to push pre-orders, that's a way to do it. But I think pushing your next book in your first book is really important, or having a good launch strategy if it's your first ever book to get that in. I mean, maybe you guys think different. I don't know. I know Michelle did some big things when she had her mermaid book, so maybe she can jump in. But that to me is the most important. I think linking it and getting it ready for all my readers to know something else is coming out.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think that the important thing to realize is that you do need to be thinking about a lot of these steps while you're in the final phases of your editing, and that's kind of hard because sometimes we have to put on different hats as an author. We have to have like our creative drafting hat and our editing hat and then our business hat. And the business hat for me is more of a challenge than the others. And so I kind of have to say, okay, today is a day that I'm going to take, 2 or 3 hours of my day and I'm going to figure out some of the stuff that I need to do. Because I would quite happily just write and edit all the time, and I tend to do that. And then I'm like, oh, look at all these things that I forgot to do. And now I've got to try and get them all done in like 3 days. So I'm trying right now as I'm preparing to launch Saved by the Rockstar. I am still drafting. And I've already started doing newsletter swaps and getting those all scheduled because I have found that people get booked up a month or two ahead of time. So if I'm waiting to the last minute to try and get my newsletters scheduled with other people, they're already booked. And so that has been a good, successful thing for me. Personally, with my audience that I've found, if they see a cover that they really like, they want it right then. Most people are not excited to have to wait a week, 2 weeks, a month, and the enthusiasm, I think, dies. I think that has been the traditional way to kind of build hype and excitement for so long, is to put your cover out there and say, hey, this is coming. But that really works best for companies like publishing houses that have such a long lead time before they get the book out. And they're just throwing anything they can out there to try and get people interested. With an indie author who's publishing pretty frequently, sometimes I show my cover just because I can't help it and I'm just really in love with it. But I would really love to kind of show my cover when people can click on it and get it. So if you do pre-orders, you might not want to show your cover until you've got a pre-order available. That's just kind of my thought. Sometimes if I was really being smart, I probably would show my cover the first time when it went live. Maybe hint, maybe give some quotes ahead of time, do some other things that are promo, but to build hype, but not do that cover reveal until it's live. Because I'm telling you, when I showed my mermaid cover for the first time, I got a lot of comments, like a lot of people excited. And then when I went to actually start telling people, okay, you can actually buy it, I did not get the same response. I think that if it had been live that first time I showed it, I would have gotten a lot more sell-through on that on my own social media. But you do need to start thinking about if you're going to buy any paid promos. Those are tricky because most of them require reviews. So you do need to send your art team out. And like Amy says, the only thing with an art team is that it's easier to send it out through BookFunnel, which you can only send it out through BookFunnel if it's not enrolled in KU and Live, right? So if you are wide and you're selling on multiple platforms, then you can give away your book on BookFunnel to your ARC readers after it goes live, even if you want to, just to have it available for people who are willing to put a review up for you. But you can't have a general download available if you're going to have your book in Kindle Unlimited. And so sometimes if I'm trying right now, my schedule has been send the final edit, like after I've done my final edit, send it to my proofreader and send an unproofed ARC out to my Scream team. Let them know that it's still in the proofing stages, but that gives them about a week or so to download the book, read it, so that when it goes live, they're finished, because people have really busy lives. And if I don't get them the ARC until the day or so before it goes live, then my reviews trickle in over the first week or 2 weeks of the launch, which is not as helpful as it is if those reviews pop up on the first day or 2 or 3. Because when I start really rolling out, doing a slow launch, when I start trying to have all my newsletters going out and all those promotional things, I want those reviews to be there so that people are like, oh, look, other people think this is worthy of me clicking on, kind of thing. But I don't stress about the number of reviews. I try really hard to get to about 12, but I did see a lot of promotional sites that just required 8. So I would say if you're looking for a bare minimum number of reviews to try and get on your book for promotional purposes, I would probably say 8. I've never seen anyone really accept fewer than that, except for the few that do accept new releases, and they don't always.
Sorry, for me, I when I was requesting for like an ENT, if I didn't have it live yet and it was for like a week after my book launched, I just because I have previous books published, I say, well, I have 8 books with an average star of 4.5 or more. So in the comment section, if I don't have any reviews, I just kind of point them and say, here, I'm not like a crackpot author. I do have other books and things. And that's never seemed to bother them in the past. So that's also a possibility to do if you're looking for a book that, you know, in your series to launch. So.
Yeah. But if you're a new author and it's your first book and you don't have that proof, that social proof already in your backlist, then you might need to have the reviews that they request on there. Let's see, what else is part of launching that we haven't? I mean, there's just like all the odds and ends of getting your page set up, having your blurb written, having a good tagline, having a short blurb. Because a lot of times people who are sending newsletters out for you with like a short blurb, or promo sites ask for a short blurb. So just do yourself a favor and have like 2 versions of it. And go ahead and have, one of the things a lot of people don't think about is getting your book linked to your name on Author Central. That's one of the things you need to put on your list to do in the early stages. As soon as you get the book either up for pre-order or live, as soon as it's on Amazon site, you need to go into Author Central and claim that book so that it will show up on your author page. And you need to think about what categories you want your book in, because as soon as when you set up your book, you're only allowed to choose 2 categories, but you can have up to 10 categories on your book, and the only way to get them on there is to send Amazon an email with the path. So like Kindle, fiction, romance, historical, Regency, with the little sideways V. Is there a name for that symbol? Yeah.
Greater than or less than symbol.
equal.
Pac-Man.
Yeah. So you basically can copy and paste the path off of other books that you find it on and just paste it into your email and send that to them so that they can start getting your book into all those categories as quickly as possible. It's just the more you go through the process, the more you learn about what all you can do, what all you need to do, and you start learning how to get that all in place. But hopefully we'll be able to think through this podcast of all the different things that should be on your to-do list in kind of a general order. A lot of things you can't do until you've got your book set up on Amazon.
Yeah, so like basically.
And I would. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so basically for me, like, number 1, write the book, get it critiqued along the way. I like to get the book cover just because I put it as my phone's wallpaper to give me some incentive to finish it so I can, have other people look at it too. And then, I'll if I'm doing a pre-order, then I'll do the blurb then and set up the pre-order. But if I'm not doing a pre-order, then I'll wait to do the blurb till after I finish the book because I hate blurbs and I'll put it off as long as I can. Then finish the book, send it to beta readers, do the edits from them, then send it to the editor. Then I will ask for newsletter slots usually while it's at the editor because my editor usually takes 4 weeks. And then I'll start writing the next book usually and finish the edits from my editor when I get those back, send out the arcs because I like to do the arcs when my book is, nice. That way if they do find typos, I know that they are ones that I didn't catch before publication. And then after that, I will upload my book and publish it. And then I'll set up AMS ads like right off the bat for that. And then just do the slow launch method after that usually. So.
And I would say, don't get wrapped up in all the possible things that you can do, especially when it's your first book. When I launched Forgetting the Billionaire, one, I didn't ask for newsletters until I had it back from betas, just because if it's your first book, you really don't know how much you're going to need to change it. And so it's going to be harder to go back and be like, yeah, you kind of need to, I can't have you send it that day because it's not going to be ready. So take your time with your first, especially in a new series, take your time with it. Once it's ready and at the editor, so it's done with beta readers, that's when I start asking for newsletters. But honestly, I think all you need to do when you first launch is get it written, get newsletter swaps, plot your slow launch strategy, and then start on the next book. I wouldn't focus so much on Facebook parties or your Facebook author page and all this stuff. That can get overwhelming and you can get like sucked into the vortex of it and it can distract you from what you need to do. So I wouldn't worry about any of those things. Do your newsletter, get newsletter swaps, and then write your next book. That's pretty much what you can do because every book you write is only going to get better. Like somebody found my book yesterday, and I'm not sure if she's a troll because she left 1-star reviews on everybody's book she reviewed, but she left a 1-star on my book, and it was there for launch day. Blam, 1-star review, and I was like, that was the only review I had, and I was like, great. This is gonna bomb it, but it did okay for me. My rank kept climbing, and I think it's because my lovely writing gals were like, it's okay, because people who see your books know who you are as an author and may probably not necessarily believe this 1-star review. So that was positive. But so the more you write, the more people know you, the better each launch you have is going to get. So just don't get overwhelmed in all the possible things that you can do.
Yeah. Especially, I was going to say, especially like she talked about doing the Facebook book parties and stuff like that. They're not effective anyway. They're just really not. And so kind of you can get advice from seasoned authors who have tried the things and know what works and what doesn't, then just go straight for if you got to choose priorities, choose the ones that will sell books for you.
Yeah, you don't need to be busy doing a bunch of other things when you can be writing your next book, because that's really what will help your sales the best. Yeah. So any more thoughts on that, or should we move to the next question?
The only other thing I would say is if your book doesn't hit it out of the park with your launch, there's time to build on that. And the worst thing that I see authors do is spend a year or 2 years just trying to get this one book to sell. Like just changing covers, changing titles, buying promotions, doing free days, all the things that can help. But if it's just not working, you almost kind of have to just cut your losses and move on. And the only way you're ever going to do that is if you're writing the next book. And so sometimes we can't get so married to one book that everything revolves around that one thing, and we can't see it for what it is. That not every book is going to sell well ever. I mean, I know a lot of really awesome books that just are not ever going to sell, including, maybe possibly my new one. So you just gotta wait and just say, okay, so time for the next one. And then just be like, okay, I'm not going to devote any more time, energy, and resources into this thing right now.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so the next question that we have is from Julia Stamps, and she asked, do you do the same launch for subsequent books in a series as the first, or do you do something different? And what promotional /blog/ marketing sites or companies, if any, do you use? And what would you say your normal budget is for a launch? So for me, I do pretty much my launches are a lot the same, except for like if it was the first book in the series, I might do a 99-cent release just to kind of build up more people looking into it. And then for like my other books and that, then I will be more likely to release at $2.99. And I didn't do a pre-order until the third book in my latest series, and that was, it worked because people did know about the series. And so I think that's something I would do on a later book and not necessarily the first book. And then I don't use a lot of promotional things, except I use AMS ads and then possibly like ENT or my book Cave if I'm doing a 99-cent release or a free day of another book. But if I'm launching it at $2.99, I won't do those on the book that I am releasing because I don't think they work as well.
So for my billionaires, I started out each book launching at 99 cents, and I kind of played around with when I upped the price to $2.99. So at the beginning, I upped it after about a week and a half, and then I went a whole month to kind of keep my book higher in rank. So I did that, and I think my first couple married books I launched at $2.99 and kept there for a while. And it wasn't until Marrying a Prince I launched at $2.99 and then did the 99 cents deal and went back up to $2.99, which worked really well for me. And then with Rule Number 1, the first book of my YA series, I was going to do $2.99, but then I said, well, I'm not really well in YA yet, so I'll just launch at 99 cents, let people take a chance on me. And so I did that, and last week I upped it to $2.99. And that's when it started to increase. But I think knowing your market's important too, because I think YA is used to higher prices because it is a traditionally published is a major player in that market, and so they're used to that. So that's been helpful. And then I launched Rule Number 2 at $2.99. I really like doing it at $2.99 and then dropping it for one day to 99 cents, just because it's easier, it's less work. It's harder to find a lot of people to send your book all on that day, but if you can, I try to be very accommodating to people so that when I need them to do something for me, they're more like, yeah, you always help me out, so I'll help you out. So that's helpful. So doing that, I don't necessarily do this. I have never necessarily done the same thing, and you kind of just play around with it and figure out where you're at. I really do think launching at 99 cents for a first-time author or in a first-time category is, I don't know, I think you lose out on some money, but that might pay off in the end by getting more sales. And then when I do launch a book, I do ENT is pretty much the only one I do, and that's for clean adult romance. I find I get a lot of downloads through that. And I'm never really concerned so much about making my money back. It's just what can ENT do for me that day? And can it give me those 30, 40, 50 extra sales that will help boost me up higher in rank? So I always figure when you launch a book, you're going to spend money because everything you do to get a product out there is to spend money. So if I'm not necessarily seeing a return, but it's helping increase my rank because on that 99 cent day, I want to have as many newsletters going out as possible. So I will use ENT for that. I don't know how ENT works for YA, so I'm interested to see and I haven't gotten a rejection yet, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I've used it, and I used it on one of my YAs. It did okay, but it wasn't like amazing. So.
Right. And that's what people have kind of told me, but I'm like, to me, getting those 30 extra whatever or however many, because you only get to see sales, you don't know how much people like download it from KU through there too. So to me, it's worth that extra amount. And I like the control of it, I guess, maybe because I know it's going to go out because I paid for it. And it's not as expensive as, let's say, Bargain Booksy. Bargain Booksy hasn't really done very well for me, even in the clean adult romance. So those are that's what I would do. And then as you get more of a name established for yourself, that's when you can start playing around with things and launching differently.
Yeah, and I would say what I've truly seen that the people who are able to be successful with pre-orders and with launching at a higher price point are people who already have an established audience. I mean there are exceptions out there, I'm sure, but for those that it works for, it's because they have an audience to sell to, and that's why when we were first really starting to do this podcast, we were all still trying to build our audience, except Victorine to a degree. And so the 99-cent thing was really working well for us because we needed to build that audience. I don't know what my next series is going to do. I'm probably still going to launch it at 99 cents for the first book because it is a new series, and I haven't published anything to Contemporary since May, so it's been a little while for them. And so I feel like to get my momentum moving again, I'm going to go for that 99-cent price point again. But for the rest of the books in the series, I'll probably try the $2.99 at launch, and basically try out what Amy's doing, because experimenting is the only way you're going to know how your readers are going to react to it. But I will say another thing that I've learned by trying to publish in a new genre is that I also, not only did I not have the readers, but I also didn't have the writer connections. And there just aren't very many people writing clean fantasy. There aren't a lot of people that are a lot of places to interact with each other to build relationships and ask for newsletter swaps, not swamps. And I don't have Amy kind of blazing the trail for me by asking people first. And so I felt I was not able to get as many newsletter swaps for fantasy. And I also didn't have a lot to offer because I don't have very many subs on my fantasy newsletter list. And so I really had to go out and try for the paid promotions with this launch, which means I tried book sends, which I haven't done for a while, and they got me probably 30 odd sales or something the day that went out, which I actually lost a little bit of money on because I think it was $35 to use book sends plus the e-reader IQ thing. And with my book at 99 cents, I just didn't get the return back, but it got my ranking up, to where my book was more visible. And that was the only thing I really cared about right then, was trying to get my book higher up so that it became more visible in the categories. And then I think that as I go through that series, one thing that is always going to be effective is if you can put the first book in your series, put a free day on it, put it up for free for a day when you're trying to get that next book rolling, because all those people who can jump on the free book at the beginning of the series are going to move naturally into the second. And so you can, if you time it right, you can get all those people looking for the second book. And a lot of times people will even purchase the second book in the series if it's available, just so they already have it on their Kindle. You'd kind of be surprised. And so that's always a thought, that it will be different if you have other books in the series, to go ahead and do that free day on the first one. And especially if it's a continuing series. Like in romance, they all tend to be standalones, or they should be standalones, everybody. But in books where they are a continuing story, especially, you'll be able to really take advantage of people wanting to jump that next book really quickly. So don't forget to do that, which I have done before. I've also forgotten to go back and update the pages of my books that came previously out to roll them into the one that just came out. Also, do not do that. Like, I did a free day to roll people into the second book or third book, and then I forgot to put a link at the end of the second book that included the new book. And so I just was like, I did not do a good job with that. So don't be like me. get your books updated.
Okay, awesome. And then, so the last part of her question I didn't answer, but she asked, like, what would you say your normal budget is for a launch? And so a lot of that depends on like your editor and your cover and all that stuff that's kind of factored into it. But for like ads, I don't know if I've spent more than 150 for those, and that's kind of high too. So I don't know. It just depends on what you want to do, basically. Okay, so the next question is from Marika.
Hey, Judy, can I jump in a second? I think that talks to having the community, like Michelle was saying she didn't have for the fantasy, because I felt that same way when I was trying to launch my urban fantasy. When I relaunched it, I didn't. It's so like depressing to go, I have no idea who to ask. Like, you don't know. And I honestly think we talk about successes, right? Which a paid promotion does really well. They'll do as well as they will, but there's nothing more important than having actual authors send it to their actual team that they have behind them. There's so many people who go, oh, I like this author knows this other author, therefore I probably like that author. You know what I mean? So that is probably the best marketing tool. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to bother people and I don't want to ask them and I don't, I feel bad, especially if my newsletter's small. And that's not what really, you're going to find authors are very open. All you have to do is find a newsletter swap group on Facebook, post your book and say, I'm willing to share. I send on these days, help me. And you'll get a fair amount of people who will jump on that and help you out, or contacting them too. Because if you ask 5 people and 2 of them send it out and their newsletters are over 10,000, that's a lot of people seeing your book and people who trust that author. So I think it's super important to build those relationships and get those newsletters, because how impersonal is ENT or, book or Bargain Booksy or all these other things, it's not the same thing as having an author that you know and love and follow them and then having them to send your book out to their group of people. Yeah, so don't ever feel like you can't talk to people.
Yeah. Well, and like I've been approached by a couple people recently wanting, asking if we could do a swap. Like, they've messaged me personally, and it's like, yeah, that's one less person I have to contact later on when my book is ready. So it works out great. Yeah, if I was getting contacted every day, like, I don't have enough space, but yeah, so you might as well try, and you're helping each other out. So I think that's a great point. Okay, so the next question is from Marika Ray, and she asks, how do you go about planning your Facebook ads strategy? Like one ad the day of release, or a series of different ads, or build more ads each day after release? And I don't do Facebook ads, so I got nothing.
So I think I'm the only one besides Victorine that does it. So when I first launched my Forgetting the Billionaire book, like I said, I had no platform to go off of. Nobody knew my name. So I was part of a few church groups, and I saw a lot of women saying, I don't know what books are clean. Show me where books are clean. And I was like, so I targeted some church groups, also like Sweet Romance reads and people who love stories. And I think I got about 56 pre-orders the week before my book launched. So that was pretty awesome. And then I kept that Facebook ad going while it was 99 cents for a while. And then I think I was spending like $5 or $10 a day. I don't know if I was necessarily making that money back, but I was okay with that because I was just needing, to me, I was like, it takes like 7 points of contact before someone actually converts over. And so I was like, if I'm just getting my face out in front of people, getting my books out in front of people and getting people to click, that meant more to me down the road than trying to like make that money back. And then every time I've launched a book, I put a Facebook ad up, put it up for $10 a day, and then kind of just monitor it and see what it's doing. Until we did our Facebook group, or until we did our Facebook podcast, or Facebook ad podcast. And now I have Facebook ads running on all 3. So on my Billionaire series book, my first Billionaire book, and my Marrying a Prince, I have ads on all of those. So I'll kind of play with that. I'll probably change it and put it onto.
Is she frozen for you too, Michelle? Oh, darn it.
Poor Amy.
She's saying really good things about Facebook ads right now, I'm sure.
Wherever she is, really, really great words are going into the universe.
Yeah. I'm sorry I can't, finish her sentences because you don't do the Facebook thing really very well.
Oh, is she back?
Oh, you're back.
Oh, okay. I was like, talking. I don't even remember where I stopped.
I don't either.
Okay. Anyway, so I'll run it. Oh, I put it on those 3 books, and I'll kind of monitor and see what they do. But I'm at a point in my career where I can put Facebook ads on things and use it as like visibility and have them like work for me. So I think I forgot what the full Facebook ad question was. Maybe I should pull it up.
Do you want me to read it?
I basically use it in the first week or 2 of my launch, and then I take it down. And then when I get brave to try it again on current books or old books. Oh, and I was going to say on my Forgetting the Billionaire, now I have pulled it under 10,000 in the store. But I think that also is the buy through from Marrying a Prince to Forgetting the Billionaire, and then also my Facebook ad. So I'm still not brave enough yet to really up my price super high because it just makes me nervous. So I kind of keep it at a lower minimum and just kind of have those sales as they trickle in. But with Facebook ads, you have to think about it as a big pond, and you're going to take a scoop out of that pond, and sometimes you're going to get no fish. So you're going to spend $10 that one day and get no sales. But then you're going to take another scoop, and you're going to, all 10 of those are going to be sales. So you kind of have to be like, okay, is this just one scoop, or is that ad just kind of tanking and down? And Facebook will kind of give you an idea and say, hey, you're starting to up your price because people are getting annoyed and they're ignoring you and they're scrolling past, and that's when your cost per click starts going up. And that's when you're like, well, maybe I've exhausted my audience, let's turn it off, or let's try something different. I don't know, does that answer the question?
So I would add a little bit. I haven't done a whole lot with Facebook ads. I've only done a few, but I'm hoping to get going with a few of them in the near future. And the ones I've done before I've set them up after my first wave of promotions have gone out. So I've pretty much exhausted like my newsletters, for example. And so I need something. I've gotten my rank up pretty good, and I just need something to keep it boosted up, And I did that with my Christmas book, and I did that with one of my Billionaire books, and I think it helps there. So I can count on the first week and a half to 2 weeks being strong without Facebook ads. But if I was going to put one in, it would probably, for me, be on that 3rd week when I needed to start having a little bit more help to sustain my rank. And then I think especially, if you were to start at a 99-cent price point and then raise it later on a different, like a 2nd or 3rd or 4th book in the series, definitely focus your Facebook ads on whatever you've got at the lowest. Like if you keep your first book at 99 cents, or for those of you that put it at free, because you're able to do that, then that would be a good one to run a Facebook ad on, because it's easier for someone to click on and try something when it's free or 99 cents. And then you can hook them into the rest of the series. So I wouldn't necessarily run Facebook ads on books at full price all the time. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but it might, it'd be an expensive way to be out there.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
return on an investment there.
Okay. Awesome. The next question we have is from Kat Cantrell, and she asks, how do you handle pricing for subsequent books in the series? Say, if I have 2 books out at regular price, for example, and want to maximize book 3's launch, should I price both 1 and 3? Or maybe it's 1 and 2. Oh, 1 and 3 at 99 cents. Just one of them or both at different times? What would you do it differently for wide versus KU? So for me, I just launched the 3rd book in my series, and instead of lowering any of the prices, I just kept them all at $2.99, and I did a free day. So that's what I would do. But if you have like a series that they cannot stand alone, that they all tie in together, then I would probably lower book 1 to 99 cents for sure, and then possibly lower book 2 a little bit as well to get people to go on to book 3. So that's what I've seen other authors talk about doing anyway. Anyone else have anything?
We can't have silence. Sorry, I was busy dealing with the chat comment. What was the question?
How do you handle pricing for subsequent books in the series? If I have 2 books at a regular price, for example, and want to maximize book 3's launch, should I price 1 and 3 at 99 cents, or just one of them, or both at different times?
I would do the first book, if anything, and just run a quick promotion on it. Or if you're wide, you can put it at free if you feel like if you've got enough books in your series. But otherwise, leave them alone because you're going to make money on them. People are going to be. That's why we do series, because we want to get the sales on the books at higher prices, and so don't drop them down, because that's where you're going to be making money. You'll just be like, I'm burning money here. I don't care, like just throwing your money into the wind kind of thing. So no, only do it if it makes strategic strategic sense to do it. And especially lowering all the books in your series to a lower price does not make any sense at all.
Yeah, especially if they're standalone.
Yes.
Yeah, keep
no
them.
sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think for your first book, if you're launching your 3rd book, I've been told, and I've tried this and I haven't gotten it, but first start trying to get a BookBub for free on your first book in your series.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get that, then that's great. They've even said, go ahead and tell them that you're using this as a launch strategy for your 3rd book, and that might make them more apt to accept you. And then if they say no, then you kind of have to think about what you want to do. I've never really used a free book to push towards my launch because I think my books are all standalones. So I figure people can just find me, and I treat every launch that way, but I keep my other books at their full price with the hopes that people will go into that next series. I think there was one time I did, and it just happened to be that way, where I had a free book when I was launching a book, but I think that was in 2 different series. So I didn't really see that really pushed me up. But you did that, didn't you, Judy?
Yeah, I did that with my last one, and I didn't necessarily push my 3rd book up higher in rank, but it definitely brought my first 2 up in rank, and they have stayed nice and high for the last month and a half, which has been really good. So I'm definitely a fan of the free day, and I plan to do, because I have book 4 coming out next, and so I'm planning to put book 3 free because the characters are a little more tied together in that one. So I'm going to put that book 3 free when I launch that one and hope for the best.
I don't think it would hurt you. That's the thing. I don't think it would hurt to do a promo a day or 2. Would I put my first book at 99 cents for the entire launch of the 3rd book? No, because I think you're going to miss out on money. But if you do like a big promo and then have the link in the back of your book to the next book and then the next book, make sure that's all clean and ready to go, then you'll see those sales trickle in as they read through the book. But for me, the best thing I've ever done, and I don't launch it, I don't do promos at 99 cents. unless I'm doing the $2.99 down to 99 cents back up to $2.99, is free. And that's the best. Every time I have a free day, the next day I make back what I paid for my promos and more on like a 2-market book. So I will like have a huge boost the next day because that's when the book goes to $2.99 and you have all that visibility and you're going to sell a ton of books. So if I was to say, don't drop your first one to 99 cents. If you're going to do a promo, do a free day, have as many newsletters sent out that day as possible, and then go from there. I did talk to Judy about it, and we talk about newsletters and how to mold your newsletters. And one thing I don't do with my newsletters is I don't let them know when my books are free. I let them know when my books are discounted but not free, because free is when I go out and I find, and I don't ever really have other authors send my free book. This is when I want to get new readers. So I only reserve my free days. It's for buying up newsletters in other groups, like in ENT and or Free Booksy and all those things is when I do that. So I keep it because I don't want to train my newsletter group to only buy my free book. So that's that little plug in there to kind of avoid just getting the free people on your list. Is I just don't ever let them, and I don't really ever send people's free books either. If you're on my newsletter, you're getting the deal right now, because you never know when people are going to have free books or they're not going to have free books, and I just prefer not to let them. They get a free book when they join, and then I say you'll get deals is what they get. So
yeah, and there's an author that I know who her newsletter has been trained now that every single book that she releases, she tells them that it's free. Like she sets up a free day, and that's kind of her launch strategy. It's really well at first, but now her books haven't been getting quite as high as they were initially, and I think that's just because her whole, like, she has a big newsletter, but they're all like, she's not making any money off of them because they're getting every single book of hers for free. So,
and if it's a big enough newsletter, she's paying to keep them. So so that's an expensive thing to happen. So I was gonna say, when I launched the 3rd book in my Billionaires series, I did do a free day on the first book, and the effect was it pulled the first book up, just like Judy said, pulled the first and the second book rankings up. And so I had a lot of people buying the 3rd book that hadn't bought book 1 and 2, which can totally happen with standalones. That one just got a lot more coverage because of the way that it was launched within the anthology. I had a lot more reviews coming in. It just did great. Got a little bit of hype around it. And so when I pulled those other 2 books up with that free day, then it meant that I was able to grab a lot more readers who were looking for the rest of the series. And I don't know, just pulled the whole series up. So when I go in and do that, where I'm releasing books later in the series, I will go back to that first book and do free days, because it definitely worked really well. So it seemed like we were talking about something else cool there at the end. Like we went off on a little bit of a tangent, and I went back to the beginning, but now I want to talk about the tangent, and I don't remember what it was. Newsletters and free days and people. Yeah. So I was contacted today, and we all get these, about somebody who wanted to join my ARC team. They said, and clearly they're not wanting to pay for books to be on my newsletter, and that's okay. I mean, whatever. I'm always looking for people who are willing to read a book and write a review about it, so that's fine. I gave her a link to my Scream team, and but I don't want my newsletter to become people that aren't willing to buy books, because it's something I do a lot of work for. I spend a good amount of time. They start to cost money once you hit a certain point, a certain number of subscribers, and don't be investing in a newsletter that you are not getting return on. It's not doing you any good. So definitely don't worry about. I would rather get a few clicks on a newsletter from people who were actually buying my book than to get lots and lots and lots and lots of clicks just because people were getting it for free. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we just have to remember this is, this is our business, and
Yes.
we write books not just for free. So yeah.
Plumbers don't come in and fix your pipes for free. Doctors, don't, do surgeries for free. I mean, artists, so all over the place, are kind of being expected to just give away what we offer to the world for free. But this is our way to pay the bills, and so let's all make wise business choices too.
Yeah, because that if we all do, then it'll just help each other out. Then people will stop expecting to just get handouts all along the way. So, yeah.
Yeah, and before we go on, I kind of like to do the live questions when it's making sense in the conversation.
Oh, okay.
So I always do this like when it's my turn. But Cindy is asking if it's been a long time between releases in a series. So she says it's been 4 years since book 2 came out. She's about to launch 3. What should she do as a pricing strategy when it's been that long between books?
I'd probably release it 99 cents. That's what I would do. But yeah.
I would say I would launch it at 99 cents too. And what I would do also is run a free day on your first book. If you, I guess it just depends. I mean, it depends on where your rankings at in your previous 2 books. Like if you were to put a pre-order up, how many people are going to be pushing towards your book? So if if people are reading through book 1, book 2, and they want to read book 3, then having the $2.99 would work. And then if not, then I'd probably just, if it's been 2 years since you launched, I would probably just pretend, if it's a standalone, I would just pretend this is a brand new book and relaunch it. And then make sure at the back of that book that you put your link to book 1 and then book 2 at the end of book 1. So you're pushing people over there, because I honestly think a new book will sell better for you and sell your other books for you than your old book selling your new book. And then they don't, and all of a sudden you kind of have flopped that release. So I would go in guns blazing, have as many eyes on that 3rd book as possible, and then use that to sell the other 2, because that will boost the rank of the other 2 books.
But what if they aren't standalone then? What would you do? Because if they have to read books 1 and 2 to understand the story, because there are series like that as well. Would you just do the free?
So this is totally like crazy, but this is what I might try. What I would do is I would create a pre-order of book 3, put it up at $2.99. Run a free day on book 1 and see how many pre-orders you start getting in. If you're getting a lot of people pre-ordering it, then okay, I can keep it at $2.99 because I'm going to make money. And if not, you can say, well, I tried, so I'm going to have a launch strategy to launch at 99 cents. That way, you can kind of play out your audience and see what they're going to do. Another thing you could do is put it up for pre-order and put Facebook ads on it. Say, am I making a lot of Facebook ads? Are people clicking? Is this something they're interested in? But I don't know if I would play it that way. I think I would do it the other way, just so I can feel out my audience, see where they're at. And that way, because don't change your pre-order from $2.99 to 99 cents, because then you'll lose all that money. So I would just put it up, keep it up for 2 weeks maybe, see what happens through that read-through of the free day of your first book. And then once it launches, then drop it down to 99 cents and then start with the newsletters and pretend that it's a brand new book. And then hopefully you have enough in the beginning of the book that people can follow you through it, and then go to the other one. Because 2 years is kind of a long time to wait to write the last book in a series.
I think she said 4 years. So.
Oh, 4 years. Okay, yeah. She said there's a lot of people waiting for the book, but I'm afraid they've forgotten. I guess it also depends on if your newsletter is pretty active, if they can remember. So
Yeah,
I
well,
guess
because there are authors that haven't, like my favorite author, she hasn't released a book in like 5 years and is like dying for it. So if
wow.
if your readers like that, then yeah, they'll buy it. Like they don't care.
That's the dream, right? That's where you want to be. That's where you want to become, where the people are just dying and writing you fan mail and when's the next book coming out? When's it coming out?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just don't want I don't want them to launch it and then it doesn't do anything. And now, you know what I mean? There's nothing more depressing than watching your book that you've just launched just not taking off the way you thought it would be. So maybe that would be the best possible way.
Yeah, I think the 99 cents would be what I do, and then promote the first book at least. So, yeah.
I mean, so this is it, and this is my little tiny little rant, and it's just my personal opinion. I don't know if you've been on 20 Books to 50K, but you can read Brian Meek's post about how rank isn't very important on Amazon, and we need to train readers to pay more money for books, and I agree to that to an extent, but then I also don't, because I'm like, there is a big difference in money between 600 to 700, 700 to 1100. There's a big difference in dollars. And so I was watching these people who are like, well, I just raised my price to $4.99. Thank you. I'm so excited to see what this does for my book. And their books are under 100,000 in the store. And I'm like, well, raising your book $2 isn't going to make it sell more. So you just kind of have to decide on, am I launching this book to make me money, or am I launching this book right now as a starting author or revamping or revitalizing a series to get my name back out there to push people towards it? So you kind of have to decide where you want to be at. I mean, obviously, as authors, we want to make money, so we're not going to always just give our books away for 35 cents a piece. But there is a time period that you have to wait where you do give it away for 99 cents to get that following, to get that readership. Then you can up the price to whatever you want it to do. So that's why we've always been like, it's okay for 2 weeks if we're giving away, a couple thousand books at 99 cents, because that means those people are going to read through into my next book, and I'm going to have new people who know who I am, and blah, blah, blah. So just, you just kind of have to decide where it is that you want to be and what you want to do. That's pretty much what my thought process is. But that is totally a tangent, so I'm sorry. That's just something I've been thinking about.
I agree with that. I think that's good. Did you have any more thoughts on that, Michelle? Okay. Okay, so this next question is from Danae Little, and she asks, when you have 3 or more books in the series ready to go so you can do a rapid release with a slow launch, what is the best time frame? How far apart do you launch your books, and how do you incorporate a slow launch method within a rapid release time frame? So I've only released 2 books kind of rapidly, and that was 3 weeks apart. And I thought that was perfect. But Amy is in the middle of a rapid release right now, and it's doing amazing. So I'm sure she has some great things to say.
Sorry, sometimes I had to get my mute button up. I would say 3 weeks is a good amount. I feel like you want to launch the second book while the first book or the previous book is at its highest peak, because that's getting the most read through to the next one, especially when you're in KU. Watching my page reads increase between the first launch and this launch. I mean, by the second day, I've had about the same amount of page reads for my first book as my second book. So that has been really helpful because my book is just much more visible. And I think that's what helped that book climb as fast as it did, because I was just selling so well on the first one that I was getting all of that follow through with the second one. So I would say every 3 weeks is good. I wouldn't go sooner than that, because there's a lot that has to happen, especially if you're in KU, to get the ball rolling. So I would do that. Also, once a month is good too. If you think, oh, wow, 3 weeks I can't do. But if every day, every first of the month, you release a new book, I think that's really good too, because by the time the first book is kind of starting its downward after its 30 days, then you send the next book out, and I would probably start having your big advertising start happening that first day. So maybe put it up for a couple of days before, and then have it take off. And then what it does, it'll just boost all your other books up in rank. So yeah, I would say, and it's nice because it's not advertising that you have to do. And then when you do advertising, then it's giving you that bigger or that much bigger of a boost. But don't do it like me and write them as you're launching your books. Have them all written because I'm a little crazy.
Which is why I haven't ever done it before. I can't get my books written that fast and then keep them sitting there while I get the other ones written. But I know a lot of people have had success. I was going to say, I actually don't know that the slow release needs to be as rigid with a rapid release, simply because you're working with different momentum than you are if you're just releasing, one title further apart. And the reason is we do the slow release because we want Amazon to see that people like the book and that Amazon decides, okay, this book is growing. This is something that readers are finding. And so we're going to start promoting it more too. And you're basically just trying to convince Amazon that it's real readers finding your book and not just you sending your newsletter out and getting a spike in one day, right? And so when you're doing the rapid release thing, the same thing is happening organically. And Amazon is wanting organic sales, right? And so when Amy's first book is selling her second book, Amazon can see the read through. Amazon can see they're going from book 1 to book 2. They can see that these are organic sales. And so it's working the same way with her algorithms as we're trying to accomplish with the slow release. And so you don't necessarily need to try to subdue your, like what if Amy was trying to squash her first day? Like, no, don't buy my book yet. Don't wait. I gotta do the slow launch thing, like that. No, jump on the fire while it's going. We just want Amazon to see, yeah, people are reading this book. Let's promote it. This is going somewhere. And so so I don't think you need to try and do the two together. Would you guys agree to that?
Yeah, because they're two different launch strategies.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that's a good point because Amy's just took off on its own without any kind of advertising. So definitely shows that the two different ones do work, but in different ways.
But I did have it up for pre-order for 3 weeks prior. So that was kind of the slow launch, I would say, as it started climbing up and selling more and more. So that was helpful. That's one nice thing. And the really, really, and I'm going to put this plug in for pre-orders that I loved is that my second book's pre-orders is the also bots are very clean. And opposed to my first book, because I was kind of like, all right, anybody who wants to send my book out, thank you. And I think I really kind of scooped up all the YA readers, and then that pushed them through. So book 2 is very, very nice also bots. Book 1 is starting to morph into what it's supposed to look like, but I'm very, very happy with how the pre-order has helped book 2's also bots, which kind of works into our next question.
Yeah, well, and that's why I started doing the pre-orders because most of my friends, my author friends, don't write young adult contemporary romance. It's mostly the clean and wholesome. And so I didn't have as many contacts. And so I wanted to get those fixed right from the start. And it definitely helps, which, it does go into our next question from Rachel John, which is, are you worrying as much about also bots now that Amazon has downplayed their visibility on the description page? And I still worry about it because for me, it's not just on that page, but it's also who they are showing it to just on other pages as well, where it shows up. So I still care about them.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw also bots out the window. I mean, I think Amazon's trying to play with things, but I honestly think Amazon's going to bring them back up because they're going to realize it's ridiculous and it doesn't sell books. It sells more books to have also bots. But I mean, I get why they're doing it. They'd rather have you click on the sponsored products than the also bots. But they're also not doing it for everyone. So it's kind of interesting to try and figure out what exactly they're trying to get accomplished. So
yeah, because sometimes it'll show up, higher, and then other times it'll be lower. So it just is just luck of the click on the page. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people believe that they're doing some of their A/B testing where they are running your page in 2 different ways and seeing which one of them is getting customers to respond better, right? And so that's why some days your page might look one way, or if you go incognito, you might see it look a different way. Or, you'll see some authors that still look like the old format, and others it's not. And so we'll see what Amazon decides to do. I do think they're experimenting and trying to decide which one is making them more money. And so we'll just have to see which one it ends up being. But I have to say that the also bots on my fantasy book are absolutely awful as far as representing the genre that it's in. I mean, it could not be worse. But it shows that all of the people who are buying my book read eclectically.
Yeah.
And it shows that there is actually quite a bit of crossover that I wasn't thinking would actually happen that much. So
they are your fans buying it.
My fans and some of my author friends' fans. People who read contemporary and Regency, and I've got a lot of Regency also bots on my YA in a fantasy romance. So it's kind of interesting. So at this point I could totally be freaking out about also bots.
But they'll fix themselves as time goes on.
I was really hoping that by doing some promo things this week that it might start to fix itself if it's only going out to fantasy people, but it's not so far. But the sponsored ads actually look a lot better than my also bots do. So whatever that means.
So sponsored ads for you and also bots for us. Just kidding.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know that there's a whole lot many of us can do about also bots anyway. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can be careful about who you're sending your newsletters out to. You can kind of be careful about what promotional things you're doing. Because I think sometimes if you're sending, for example, since we write Clean and Wholesome, which is so specific, if you send your book out to a broad romance, somebody that just only has broad contemporary romance, you might get a whole lot of spicy reads or steamy reads listed in your also bots rather than Clean and Wholesome, which you can get through some promotional sites that only have a specific clean category, or with authors sending theirs out in your newsletter and they write or have a clean, platform. And so, that's there are some choices you can make to control your also bots. I could have told nobody about my mermaid book and have cleaner or non-existent also bots. But I think that when it comes down to it, sometimes you just gotta let also bots just be what they are.
That's what my philosophy was with my YA. I was like, it's gonna be messed up, but it's gotta be what it's gotta be. So I was just like, all right, because I was trying to sell my name. I wasn't selling the fact that it was YA. It was if you like. And for my first book, a lot of the reviews say I don't normally read YA, but I love this author, so I'll read what they write. And that was kind of what I was going for, with the hopes that eventually I'll pull some YA readers or get myself visible enough that I can pull YA readers in along with me.
Wouldn't it be awesome if Amazon let us pick who won the ads on our pages?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be so amazing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had more control over our pages. That would be cool.
Yeah. Imagine.
I don't think it's gonna work like that though.
Yeah, and if we made the money off of those ads too, that'd be cool.
Well, it just seems like theirs is. I mean, the system is too huge. But I mean, we're working with computers here. I mean, it's all programmed. Like there's not somebody behind the scenes clicking buttons and saying, "Oh yeah, these 2 books are similar. We should put them together." No, it's all run by bots somewhere, just kind of putting numbers together and throwing books out there. So, it would be really cool if we could put the human brain back in there somehow, even if it was just through the authors themselves. But I'm just talking nonsense now. We need to wrap up.
Okay, so there is one more question that for sure we want to do, and then I don't know how many live questions there are. But Julia Chianini asks, what is your biggest launch mistake, and what's your biggest launch win?
Well, I'll go first. My biggest launch mistake was changing my pre-order from $2.99 to 99 cents. And I had 333 pre-orders that I all of a sudden did not make $600 on and made like 100. So that was my biggest launch mistake. And I would say I have a lot of launch wins, thankfully. But I think my biggest thing is being intentional with everything that I do. And probably the authors that I have met and the connections that I have made have helped me in every single launch, and it makes every single launch I do even better because I reached out to people and have created a network of friends around me that helped me when I launched. That's probably the best thing. And then the second thing, it would be rapidly releasing. I'm really liking releasing my YA this way. So I'm grateful I listened to my awesome author friends who were like, Amy, you should rapidly release these and see what happens. So I'm very, very grateful that I have awesome author friends who give me great advice.
Well, you can't. We're not fast enough to do it, so you might as well. Okay, so my biggest launch mistake was probably my first 2 or 1. I didn't really do the slow build, and so it got high for a day and then it died. So yeah, and then also swapping with authors that were not exactly in my genre. It didn't really help my third book out too much because, well, I guess I was just sad that the also bots were so messed up for a long time. So I definitely recommend trying to get the newsletter swaps in the right genre if you can. If you can't, then just do what you can because any advertisement is better than none, I think. And then my biggest launch win, I guess my last one was pretty good. I liked that one. Just releasing the third book was amazing because it was able to get pretty high in rank and then hold it for a month, and then it's still hanging on at a pretty good one, and I hope that it will stay at least until I get my next one out. So that was my biggest launch win, just having a trilogy, I guess, come out and do well and help all the others. So yeah.
So I think my biggest launch fail was my first 5 books, which was all caused because they weren't written to market. And I didn't know how to put good covers on books yet. I didn't know all the stuff that I know now. And so that was all about experience and education issues. And I would say that my best launch win was The Trust of a Billionaire, which did best for me money-wise and also review-wise. And I think reviews are so much fun as an author. I'm up to 120 reviews on that, which is the most I've ever gotten on a book, and I got them so quickly. And they were, all really positive reviews. I don't go look on Goodreads and quote me on this, but I think pretty much, they're positive on that. And as an author, that means as much to me as anything else, is to see that a book just seemed to jive with a lot of people. And so that felt really good to me. And so that was definitely victory.
Okay, awesome. So are there any other live questions that you think we have time for?
Nope, I've been watching, and we've been talking about all of them, so we're set to go.
Okay. And there was just one other from Danae Little. I think it's a real quick one. How long after launch do you keep ads running, including AMS ads? For me, I just have my AMS ads always running. Unless they're doing badly, then I will turn them off. So yeah, it's good to just always have AMS ads, in my opinion. I'm not sure about the Facebook since I don't do it, but I think we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. So yeah. So I think Michelle has a little plug for the Storymakers Midwest and Indie Author Hub conference coming up. So we'll just do that really quick because it's coming up really soon.
Yeah, September 21st and 22nd in Kansas City. You can still register. They still have slots available, and it's a very affordable conference. It's slow and not slow, small, and so you can get to spend some quality time getting to know your instructors and a lot of the people there and build up good friends. So I'm encouraging all of you, if you're looking for a good conference, especially if it's your first conference, you've never gone to one before, this is a really friendly, supportive, helpful conference to attend. So I'll be posting a link on our Facebook group page about it soon. So any of you can go and click on that and join, register.
And Amy, Michelle, and Victorine will all be there, and they will all be teaching classes. So you definitely want to show up. I wish I was able to come, but just didn't happen this year. So hopefully next year. So yeah, we haven't really chosen our topic for next week, but it will be awesome. So stay tuned. And we're thankful that you joined us tonight, and we will talk to you next week. So thanks for staying up late with us.